Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another chapter in the life of Elevate Together. So we have come together to share some knowledge, deposit some knowledge for you so that you can work on wealth management. My name is Paula Kurday, and I am the Motivational Money Maven. Today, I have the privilege of having a very special guest with us, Miss Hillary England, and we are going to be talking about taking a little bit a step further than we did last week. Last week, we talked about the alphabet soup. What does IRA, Roth IRA, and all those letters and numbers mean and how it applies to us? So Hillary is going to do us a huge favor and walk us through the next step. We're super excited to have her on here. Hillary is passionate about helping clients secure their financial future. She currently serves as a senior field agent for Appreciation Financial, a full service national financial powerhouse with headquarters in Las Vegas and an Inc. 5000 company 2 years in a row, 2018 and 19. Prior to joining the team in Appreciation Financial, Hillary served as an assistant department manager for operations at Barnes & Noble, the internet's largest bookstore, and strategic partner to colleges and universities. Hillary also holds an associate's of applied science degree from San Jacinto College. And in her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her family, traveling, and cooking. And guys, if you have not tried her food, she's fantastic. Hillary resides in Houston, Texas, with her husband, Mike, and her two young daughters, ages 4 and 7. And I might add, she has a heart of gold. She is a giver and absolutely passionate about helping people discover financial literacy and just get your finances right. I think that like many of us in this community, we are like-minded people that come together to make sure that we can get to that next step. Whether you've talked about finances before, whether you know how they work, or you have specific questions to make sure that your game is on point, reach out to one of us and let us know how we can help. However, without further ado, here's one of my other favorite humans, Hillary England. Take it away, girlfriend.
Hey, Paula, thanks so much. That's such a wonderful, lovely intro. I appreciate all of the kind words. That is so wonderful. I definitely do agree that I do my best to help everyone as much as I can. And I hope that with the information I share today that I'm able to help some of you learn a little bit more financial literacy and understand just exactly what the steps are and how you go about saving for retirement. So it's like Paula was talking about last week. You have your 403Bs, your 401Ks, your IRAs. Those are all retirement vehicles. But what I like to say is you have an engine that you put inside that vehicle that makes it run. So I'm going to talk about those engines today. So there's 3 engines, but I won't only discuss those engines. I'm also going to talk about the phases of retirement, which we all have 3 phases of retirement that we go through that align with those engines. So the phases for saving are going to be accumulation, preservation, and distribution. And we'll also talk about the engines. So first, let's do the engines, and then we'll go into our phases. So the first engine available is option 1, which is a variable. It's exactly as it sounds. It varies. So these accounts are usually stocks or mutual funds. They usually come with multiple fees. There's no control and there's no guarantee. So you'll see the fluctuation, right? The ups and downs of the market. And of course, when you have those fluctuations, you're also going to have risk. So there's a second option, which is called a fixed. It's usually the more stable option. Think of like a horizontal line with a slight increase. It's going to give you a flat interest rate, which is usually anywhere between 1% and 3%. While it guarantees your principal and you don't have any fees, it's considered the slower growing of the 2 options. Obviously, there's the third option, right? So we only have 3. So now the third option is a fixed indexed. This option will capture the stock market gains with downside protection. What is downside protection? Well, I'm glad you asked. Downside protection means your principal and your accrued interest are guaranteed. Okay, so there's zero risk. It allows you 100% savings security, and it has zero to minimal fees. I'll come back to the minimal fees in a moment. But so your first option variable does this, gives you no guarantees. The second option is fixed. It gives you a guarantee. Think of it kind of like a CD. And then your third option is going to be like a staircase, a little bit opposite here. So think of it like a staircase. You're going to earn interest and lock it in, and you're guaranteed your principal, so you'll never lose a penny of your money. And then we go into our phases, which I talked about. Phase one will be the accumulation process. It's exactly like it sounds. You're going to gather a bunch of money and you're going to accumulate it, so that way you can move it to phase two. But in the accumulation phase, this is what usually sets everyone up for long-term financial security. This phase is typically when we're younger, we have time, and risk is generally okay, right? So we can save aggressively when we're younger because time's on our side. So if we say 10 years down the line, we have the ability to recover any loss 10 years down the line. It's perfect for anyone who's under the age of 45 to 50, just kind of depends on when you want to retire. Our second phase is going to be preservation, right? It's exactly like it sounds, preserving what you've taken the last 30 years to accumulate. So we're still working, we're still contributing, but the outlook on risk has changed. So in our accumulation phase, we're younger, we take higher risks, we're more aggressive. In phase two, in preservation, we're typically older, we're closer to retirement, and we're actually looking at risk as less risky, more conservative. So when we're looking at this phase, we're saying, if I took a 20% hit in my savings, how much is that going to affect me, right? Obviously, if we're in the accumulation phase and we're in our 30s, taking 20% on the 10,000 we've saved is only about $2,000. We can recover that. But if we're, let's say, in our mid 50s and we're about 5 years away from retirement and we take a 20% hit on the $200,000 we've saved over the last 30 years, that's $40,000 we have to recover in 5 years. We don't have another 20 or 30 years to recover that. So we're looking at saying, what can we do to minimize that risk? So I say that this phase is anyone who's 7 to 10 years out from retirement. Obviously, the age at which you want to retire will kind of depend on that. I don't want to give age specific. Some people want to retire at 50. So it's for someone who's 45. Then you have the third phase, which is distribution. Distribution is going to be in retirement. So we're no longer adding to it. Instead, we're taking from it. So we're drawing an income from our retirement and we're beginning to enjoy the fruits of our hard labor. So remember when I said I was going to circle back to the minimal fees on option 3 engine? I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the accumulation phase obviously pairs well with engine 1, right, which is the variable option. We have time to recover because we're younger. The preservation phase can pair with either option 2, which is fixed, or 3, which is the fixed indexed. That engine's really just going to depend on your personality and your preference. There's some people who prefer stable long-term growth, and there's others who say, you know what, if I don't earn interest this year, I'm okay with that, and I'll earn 10% the next year. That's totally fine. But there's some people who just prefer to see the steady growth every single year, so they'll go with something like a CD option, and that's perfectly fine. And then obviously in our distribution phase, it's going to pair well with a fixed index, which is the option 3 engine. That's going to be because the minimal fees, I said, come with a guaranteed income. So you can have a minimal fee placed onto your fixed indexed account, which will say, hey, no matter what, just the same way that we guaranteed your principal and your accrued interest, we're also going to guarantee your income. So for every year for the rest of your life, you'll receive this income. One of the great things about these phases, and another great thing about the engines, is that you could mix them. generally it's better if you kind of follow the pattern. And that's mostly because if you have a high risk, if you're like my husband, he likes to be aggressive, but he's nearing his middle 40s. I'm like, we should maybe slow down on the aggression and we should go into a little bit more conservative. But you have the option to have separate accounts, right? So you can have your 401 and an IRA, and maybe you can have one that's aggressive, one that's conservative. But it's really wonderful that you can move all of your engines in between your vehicles. So it just really is going to depend on what you want to do, what your plans are, and what it looks like for you in retirement. And that's pretty much what I have.
Fantastic. So what I'm hearing you say, and this is, I think, an important piece, is number one, you don't just get one plan. You can have multiple plans if you set it up that way. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Last week we also covered, what's better, 403b, IRA, Roth IRA. Part of what I want to remind everybody is that no one plan is better than the other. It depends on what your end result is. So look at the goals that you have. And part of what Hillary and I specialize in is that we're financial strategists. We look at strategies that are going to get you to your destination, yet more importantly, that will keep and sustain that destination because that's your plan. We talk about retirement, and I think that the conversation is often very casual, that, at some point we're going to meet the numbers age-wise to qualify for retirement. However, our pocket is going to dictate how long and the quality of that retirement. So, the encouragement, you guys, is not always to save all your money for the future. I want you to have what if funds for today. What if you want to go on vacation? What if you need new makeup? What if your car needs new tires? What if life is happening? Enjoy your life now. However, also be mindful of how you're setting up later. So people like Hillary are a key person in your life that's going to bring information for you to properly plan and map out, how do I get to retirement? Like, what vehicles would work for me? It's important not to give absolutes because each one of us has a different plan and a different idea of what peace of mind looks like and what more money looks like. So generally, when somebody consults with me and says, hey, listen, I just want more money. Great. Let me hand you $20. That's more money. Oh, that's not what I was talking about. Okay. Well, now that you're serious about building wealth, let's talk about what the concept of more money looks like for you, and what is it going to take in your head and in your bank account to embrace that concept of more money? And like Gabriella had talked about, what's the purpose for that money? Like, if you just have accumulated money for the purpose of accumulating it, it's not going to stick around, or it might, but there's no function to it. Yet these vehicles give you a functionality. Some of the features that are embedded in each one of the strategies that she talked about are important to know. Again, she talked about risk factor, things that I took away from your conversation. How high or low is your risk tolerance? What is your time frame that you're looking at? And what are some of the goals and the tools that you want to use this money for? Is it for the sake of accumulating? Are you preserving it? Or are you in a distribution phase? I believe that one of the most powerful pieces in this is truly the distribution, because the distribution, along with how much you put in there, accumulation and distribution are going to be important because it allows you to stretch that money a little bit further, right? So when you look at that and you inspire the difference of, hey, listen, this month I'm going to put just a little bit more because I know on the back end I can stretch it a little bit more. The fees are important to consider because not all fees are the same. Are you paying fees for transactions, or are you paying fees for features that are going to stretch that money? You get to decide. And as we talked about this before, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. Is that feature a tool that's important to you? And are you willing to do that exchange? Can you have somebody manage your money and make sure that it's in the market and then that it's producing money and that it's creating opportunities? Absolutely. However, with that risk, there's really no guarantee. I think if we knew the guarantees and we could promise you you would never lose money, we would be multi-gazillionaires because we would have that crystal ball and clear vision of what was happening with your money. So what I'm not saying is don't go and have play money. Like Hillary said, different personalities are going to dictate different levels of investment and interest. So have some play money. Don't have all your eggs in one basket, and do consider, how do I balance this out? I have some play money. I have some money that is 100% secure because that's my nest egg. And where do we find in the middle where we're living? How do we tailor our expenses to make a difference, to live right now and to live later and still have a comfortable life? What else, Hillary?
So one of the big things, when you were talking, it reminded me, I don't know that I mentioned it, but a lot of what I look at when I have meetings with clients is I tell them, okay, let's think of this as a puzzle. What does your picture look like, right? If I'm going to start a puzzle and you hand me 100 different pieces, how do I know what this picture looks like? I don't know where to begin in starting to put the puzzle together because I don't have a picture in my head. So I like to ask my clients, do you know what your picture looks like for retirement? Because if you don't know what it looks like, I don't know how to help you. So what I tell them is go and think about it. Think about your future with your family, your kids. Are you going to want to travel? Do you want to leave them a house? Like, what are these options that you have that you say, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. It would be nice to do this. We all have these hopes and dreams and things that we want to do, but what are the steps needed in order to implement those things? And I can only help you do that if you come to me and say, okay, these are all of the things that I want to do. And these are the steps I've already taken. And then I can say, okay, now we have your picture. Now we know what it looks like. Now we know where to start. And the starting point is sometimes the hardest place for people. When I've met and talked with individuals, majority of the time they say, I know this is something I need to do. I just don't know where to start. And I like to help them find their starting point by saying, okay, well, let's know where you want to go. Let's find our map, right? Where do we want to end up? And then where are you already? Let's find out where you are on the map, and let's find the place to where you want to end up. And I'll help you pave that road and get there. But we have to really have that picture in mind.
And would you agree that sometimes the hardest conversation is just starting to talk about finances? I find that it's an intimate topic and some people just don't want to face it, right? So just opening up. And I think part of the reason we're having this platform is to give people the opportunity to give themselves permission to talk about that. So if you don't have a budget right now, consider that as part of your starting point of like, what is my budget? What comes in, what goes out? And that's important because it's going to tip the scale on your balance, assets versus liabilities, and how you're creating that balance. The other thing too is the important piece about the budget is that when I meet with clients, I ask them, what is your proposed spending budget at retirement? And most of them look at me like I've got 8 heads, like, what?
Yeah.
That's when we talk about the distribution piece, where we want to look at multiple source of income that is going to come to you at retirement versus having one single source. If anything were to happen to that one single source, guess what? You're going back to work, or you're going to be dependent on a spouse or your children. Okay, so that's what we typically see people that retire within a small window of time. They take a long vacation, get bored, and then go back to work. Or what's even worse, some of them just don't make it past that window of time. We see people that are passing away, and it could be due to health issues. It could be due to lack of purpose. It could be, I don't have the specifics on that. However, don't solely save for tomorrow without living for today. Okay. So that's part of why it's important to meet with a financial strategist that's going to give you the ability to balance the scales and say, okay, what quality of life do you want today? And what quality of life do you want in the future? So I think those are just very important things to consider. What else, Hillary?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with all of that. There's definitely a peace of mind that comes with saving for tomorrow, but you also have to balance that out because, I'm reminded of, you know, the there's a portion in the Bible, and I don't remember where, but he's mentioning a farmer who's saving all of his grains up for retirement. And the night that he's going to retire and sit back and enjoy everything, he's gone, right? And, the fields burn and he dies. And so a lot of it is, are we doing what we need to today to help secure our financial future? I hope so. But are we also making sure that we're enjoying the fruits of our labor currently? Are we doing what we need to do now to show our kids that it's not just about working, working, working to earn all this money to save it up? It's about, hey, yes, we did earn this money. We can do these things. And I think that part of the financial hardship in conversation, that struggle in talking about finances, comes from the unhealthy relationship that maybe we've developed from either watching our parents argue over money, or maybe having failed relationships because of money. So sometimes in these instances, our relationship with finances or money in general has been something we've avoided because we don't want to dredge that back up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. I mean, when I got married, I inherited debt. I had never had debt prior to getting married. And it was not necessarily that it was anything bad. It was just, that's now a conversation I had to have. And I had no experience in it because I didn't have it. If I couldn't pay for it out of my pocket, I didn't get it. And I really lived by the motion of, am I going to wear this in the next week? Or am I going to use this in the next week? And if my answer was no, I just didn't buy it. So that was one of the ways that I kind of taught myself my financial habits in my early 20s, because I did get a little bit of student debt, but I paid it off within about 2 years, because as soon as I felt that debt, I said, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's a moment where we have to kind of come back and say, this is a conversation that has to happen. It is a conversation that is needed and necessary. And how can I navigate that? And sometimes you need a mediator between a spouse, between you and a spouse. It's sometimes necessary to have that financial strategist come in and say, okay, well, I see your perspective and I see your perspective, and let's find a happy medium. We're going to find a compromise that works for both of you, because it's not going to be just one of you that retires. It's going to be both of you that retire. And if it's both of you accruing everything over this lifetime together, we need to make sure that you have a way to sufficiently take care of that in retirement together as well.
That's fantastic. I think part of the shift in that is we're going from shame and blame and not wanting to talk about where we are with our finances, because it does become a private matter when you are in the hole and you're in debt, and it's a negative feeling versus the positive feeling of debt where now you have an asset and it's been financed. We get in debt to buy a house, we get in debt to buy a car, and that's a financial responsibility that we have. However, when the scale is tipped negatively and there's shame and blame involved, how do we go from shame and blame to grace and gratitude? I'm grateful now that I know that institutions trust me and I'm able to pay my bills. I'm grateful that I have all the money to pay what I previously borrowed because I was entrusted, and now I'm on a different track. So we changed the subject or that tagline from shame and blame to gratitude and grace, being gentle on our body, being gentle on our soul, but also being committed to using the tools that we've learned financially. We've talked about this before, and I'll have to look for the video and see if I can post this. However, there's a pastor that talks about when you learn the blueprints of your life, it doesn't matter what happens. If the enemy attacks you, if things fall apart, if you have the blueprint to your house or you have the blueprint of how to make money, it does not matter if somebody comes and steals all your money out of your bank account or of your home, or if your home goes down in flames. Having the blueprint, the knowledge, the ability to apply that knowledge gives you the ability to rise again, gives you the ability to go backtrack to that blueprint and say, It's okay. No matter what happened in my life or is happening right now, I know where I started. I have the blueprint. I can do it again. So
Yes.
one of the most powerful things about being in this community is that we get to create blueprints and tools to elevate together, to create a different type of lifestyle, to create an opportunity. There's no cost to be part of the Elevate Together community. However, what we bring is so valuable for people to be able to shift. The tools that we have within the community to learn are key. However, we also have an opportunity for people to support the community by purchasing some of the items, because there are people in this community that represent a company that has things like health products, beauty products, even simple things like toothpaste that you would normally go buy at the grocery store. Well, guess what? The grocery store is not putting on these seminars for you and saying, hey, listen, come and listen free of charge. And you're going to change somebody's life directly impacted. When you look at this community and how we support each other, would protein powder, would a beauty product, would a toothpaste make a difference in your day-to-day life? Yes. Would it be of value to you to contribute to somebody's life and saying, hey, listen, I support your small business. I support your vision. I realize that you have a goal to make an extra $200 or $2,000 a month or whatever that might be. Let me contribute to your life. So we move in unison, we move in synergy together to continue to support the community and making sure that is like-minded individuals that are wanting to succeed and that are wanting to create wealth at a different level, that there's a unity that's created within what we're bringing. So I'm fully in support of the people that are part of this community that have their business, that are hustlers, that are just loving life and going out there and reaching for the stars. Guys, we're going to continue talking about wealth management. And remember, wealth is not just about money. It's not equivalent to just money or currency. We're talking about changing your physical, spiritual, emotional health. And along the way, we're also going to shift all that money mindset so that you guys can understand, where do I even start? Right? So if today's conversation hit you a little bit different as far as wanting to start a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, 403b, 457, 401k, let me know. Reach out to Hillary, reach out to myself, and we can help you navigate through that. If this is still kind of going above your head and you're like, wait, I think I missed a chapter, go back and watch some of our other chapters where we talk about managing debt, where we talk about managing other aspects of your life, creating budgets, creating a system that works for you. However, my ask of you today is that you begin to have open conversations with your loved ones about finances. Hillary made a great point about having those conversations with your spouse. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable. Sometimes it can cause a little bit of, I would say charged conversations, especially if you're not the one that brought the debt into the marriage, or if it was jointly created and you guys didn't talk through the process, it can be uncomfortable. However, the peace of mind on the other side of that conversation is going to create a quality of life where you guys can enjoy what you have a different plan. It's that power partnership where we're looking at the betterment of, hey, listen, this is what I want. What do you want? This is what I want. Great. Not only are we on the same page, we're in the same book. And I don't know about you guys, when you're having that conversation with somebody, you're like, wait, what page are you on? 10. Me too. Well, what book? Not that book. So this is the time where you have that conversation with your spouse and your loved ones and say, hey, listen, we got to get on the same book and in the same page so that we can make a financial difference, a positive impact within our home, so that positive impact can create a ripple effect into your community. So speaking of positive impacts, one of my favorite vehicles that I love to talk about, this is a little bit more advanced tools in protection for your family, more advanced tools for peace of mind. So we're going to be talking about the power of life insurance. And I'm not talking about a death insurance. I'm talking about life insurance and how as a tool it can make a difference in protecting your family and also creating tax-free money at retirement. We are definitely not going into that today because that is a full conversation. So we're going to have a special guest, and then we're going to also have a panel where we're going to talk about some of the features of how you can consider this the Cadillac of vehicles, since we started to talk about vehicles, and the impact that it would have in your life. So if you know anybody in their early 20s, this would be the key to them being multi-millionaires by the time they're in retirement when they set it up properly. So we're going to talk about how it is just amazing. I won't even go into it right now because I'll go off on a tangent. I'll also share my story about why I know personally that it brings peace of mind, and I've personally been affected and blessed by this type of policy because it has forever changed my life. So I will be sharing a testimony on that, the trials of it, the testimony of it, and how I firmly, passionately stand about talking about finances, because I would be in a very different place in my life right now had I made different choices financially. I don't know where I would be right now. Yet the positive habits that I took to create financial well-being have paid 100-fold or more. So guys, that's what I've got for you guys. I value your time, Hillary. I am so grateful for your deposit of knowledge. Let's continue to deposit knowledge so we can create wealth, because we are not able to deposit excuses into the bank. So we want to create some results, you guys. When you listen to these videos, let us know how we can lovingly help you. Know that as part of this community, all of our consults are complimentary to you. So feel free to reach out, have some conversations with us. And that's what we got. Anybody have any questions? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for sharing. It was amazing.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we will see you. Actually, let me remind you, next week, I'm actually taking a little break. I will be out of town. So I'm going to be putting together our panel and our guest speakers. Next week, we will not be meeting. So we'll meet the week after. And I promise to make it worth your time. So stay tuned. Make sure you guys are tuning into our information. And if there's specific topics that you need us to cover, feel free to bring them up. We will go over those and cover them for you. Okay. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks for having me, Paula. It was a pleasure, and I loved it. I enjoy giving all of this information to everyone, right? We have to make educated choices, and the only way we can do that is if we have the knowledge.
That is true, and I adore you. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
All right,
Take care.
bye.
Bye-bye.